actually really interesting is the way in which I would answer that same question that you had, Sheida. And I'm going to contemplate on that too, because this is a really beautiful crystallizing question for sure. And I'm excited to talk about it with him later too. Is you actually can't determine what that level of constructive pain is versus destructive pain. I don't necessarily hold that current belief that we can do that unless we actually have a goal. And so Alan just mentioned self-efficacy, which self-efficacy and self-belief is the underpinning that you need in order to be able to achieve a goal. And I
set one.
Exactly. So I come from the standpoint of agreeing with what Alan said, and also you won't know where that line is unless the goal that you have gives you feedback to dictate where that line is, because of the fact that our current belief systems already have this perception of pain. Yeah. And our perception of pain is always lower than the reality of pain. So even going back to that couple that we were talking about, their perception of scarcity and fear is so irrationally hijacked and not actually objectively and rationally in the true now. So whatever line in the sand that we want to believe or tell ourselves the story of, that this quote unquote now pain that's being perceived is actually destructive. Of course, that's the story we're going to tell ourselves because it's cognitively more expensive to actually go through and even contemplate that pain is actually constructive for us. Because again, that has us changing our belief systems and what I call our entire emotional scaffolding that allows us to show up in our current comfort zone right now. So that is where the benefit of having someone that has a bigger belief system than you comes into play, because they will draw that line and help you get to know yourself more than you actually know yourself, because that fear is in the way, blocking you from the actual reality that your pain bodies or your perspectives are contorting to have you stay in that stuckness that you've been in the whole time. And that's why when we say you are the sum average of the 5 people that you hang out with, that's why swapping out those 5 people can be such cheat codes for you to actually start to be able to transition that pain into purpose. And that can be a transition that will totally change your life. So I agree with you, and a different perspective.
The couple that was in scarcity, they were so much more capable than they realized. And this is the challenge with being coaches. Because when we first met them, to her point, they were struggling. The male in the relationship literally says we would have broken up if it wasn't for you guys.
Which is a fact.
And they would have. Yeah. And they shouldn't have. Because they have a magnificent relationship now. Yeah. But one of them was making minimum wage, struggling. Now she's a GM now. But the truth is, and this has been hard for us to realize, that has a lot to do with who they got around. Yeah. Because their comfort zone was here, and we forced them just by being around them to make it here.
Why is that?
And then here.
Because of the belief systems that
yes, they were more capable than they thought, although less capable than we thought.
True.
We're sorry.
True. But here's the thing, you would never know unless you actually had someone to challenge you outside of your current level of beliefs.
We are all more capable long-term than I think we think.
Facts.
Unless you have undying self-belief to the point where you're overly optimistic. So Emilia and I tend to overdo it. Most people underdo it.
Which, if you shoot for the stars, you land upon the moon. So
or get deaded on the side.
In space.
And or float off into space, metaphorically and literally. But the point is what amount of growth is destructive versus constructive is completely dependent on the individual and the individual's goals. But what we've found is most people's goals are too small in the long term.
Yeah.
Wonderfully said. You guys are such leaders.
Thank you.
Well, it's totally obvious. Look how we did this interview so beautifully. Thank you.
Sheida, you're making us very uncomfortable. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. No, not in a bad way. Not in a bad way.
Your questions.
No, I said that you're making us very uncomfortable. We
love praise.
No, you're being nice, sarcastic. No, we really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. We're very different.
We're uncomfortable with being all of us.
Yeah, being all of us. We were very us in this interview. This is a lot for people. So, Sheida, some people are afraid not to be enough, and some people are afraid to be too much. 2 guesses which one we are? So thank you for hosting this. Thank you for
Listen.
helping us come out and shine, and we appreciate it. But we are uncomfortable shining a little bit, and so thank you.
Oh, really, always such an honor to have you on the podcast. And thank you for sharing your wisdom again. So, Emilia said something very interesting. She said, once you said something, you cannot take it back, or once you did something, you cannot take it back, right? How do you rebuild trust after such an event?
Nice.
Great question. So, a lot of people think that conflict is something to avoid in relationships. And so, when you get into those rumbles, like we talked about, or those quote unquote arguments, people really have a negative connotation when it comes to conflict. And in conflict is where we say things or do things that we wish we didn't. But here's the thing, we cannot wave a magic wand and take back whatever we said. But one of the most beautiful and powerful things, in my perspective, one of the most extraordinary skill sets that we as human beings can develop is the repair and the reconciliation process that happens after a rupture. So a rupture, and there's many different types of ruptures. We won't get into that today. We have, I believe we have a podcast episode on that. But anyways, when you say something that you don't mean or that it hurts, we call them pain bodies or stingers, right? Like, you're such a brat or something. Like, you would never say that, so that's not a good example. But let's say something is said or something is done that you're like,
here's one really that men should never go near. You're just being dramatic. Never go near that as a man.
Or
like
those crazy. You're crazy.
You're being crazy or any of that. So anytime you're attacking someone's character, we call it a stinger, and you break trust. Go ahead.
So there's multi-levels of trust on that. So it's all nuanced, but that is a rupture. Okay. So ruptures, then what you do in the aftermath of a rupture allows you to rebuild the relationship and rebuild the trust in such a magnificent way that when you can go through a reconciliation process and take ownership and really clarify what you had meant and do so in a way that is and goes through the guidelines of remaining calm and centered, taking accountability, having the humility to say and apologize. Believe it or not, we very rarely hear apologies.
Take ownership.
But when you do that and you apologize and you recognize and have empathy and say, I really know how hurtful what I just said was, instead of saying, I didn't mean to say that. Right? That one element of ownership in the repair and reconcile process can go so far, because what that is essentially communicating to the central nervous system of your partner is that I know I just hurt you and I'm so sorry. And I will do my very best to not do that again. And if I do, I'm going to call it forward, because it's not just trust that you're not going to say it again. It's trust that you know what you just did and how deep the wound was, what that you just cut into. And so the how looks very different for each couple based on quote unquote the pain bodies that they share. So for example, if I have a history of sexual assault, or if I have a history of verbal assault in my past relationship, if Alan were to say anything that even came close to something that a past partner that had said, that's a very different nuance about how we're going to communicate and repair that rupture than, let's say, someone who has no history or no past of that, because the pain body goes very, very deep. And so the reconciliation process, that building trust back, that is a process that is very similar in every single relationship because the principle is the same, but the nuances look a little different. And so it's really about taking ownership, naming what the impact was of the rupture that you just caused, and then moving forward and asking, how did that impact you? Clarifying what the impact was with your relationship, and then moving forward in a way that helps you, quote unquote, software upgrade, meaning in the future, when I get hijacked like that, what do you need to hear? Or what could I say that could be more true to me? And that feedback process is really, really powerful.
Yeah. A tangible example of this that happened. So her mom had sent me a beautiful, vulnerable voicemail once, just saying, hey, I'm really sorry about what I said. That was really cruel. And she was very vulnerable and emotional. And my relationship with her, I feel like, is 10 times better than it was. Mm-hmm. And I won't go into the details to protect her privacy, of course, but I feel great with Vicky.
Yeah.
Because of that, there was a
rupture.
String, a string that was cut, of breaching of trust. And she took those strings and tied them back together even stronger than before. And that's the metaphor that
people use. Are like, I didn't break any strings.
Yeah, I didn't break any strings. And then you just keep chopping them. It's like Edward Scissorhands.
By you saying that, you're literally chopping more strings. So to be
maybe turn it back at you and make it your fault.
deflect it, project. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's where all the shame responses start to come into play.
And the last piece of this too, sorry to interrupt you, is you have to follow it up with action.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's one thing that is, number one, you have to notice when you hurt your partner.
Yeah.
So you have to notice it's attunement. So one time I teamed up with her brother at making fun of her when we first got together. This was 6 years ago almost. And I noticed her face and I went, oh my God. I said, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. That will never happen again, because past partners would do that.
And he did that on his own accord, unprompted, without me saying, hey, you know what, that really hurt me.
I saw it in her face. It was that, oh no, not again moment.
Yeah.
And I try to be very aware. I don't want to screw this up. So I took ownership, and I've never done it since. Mm-hmm. Right? Never? Yeah. So that she needs to see that I'm not just going to say I won't do it again. She needs to see 5 more years of I don't ever team up with her brother, even if it's playful.
Especially because the little nuance on that, which couples want to pretend doesn't exist. This is where John Gottman's work of the bid system, when you have one negative bid or one negative thing that you say or experience, there are 5 quote unquote bids, positive bids, or positive interactions and engagements that essentially you have to do in order to make up for that one negative. Mm-hmm. At the conscious couple that we aspire to have at least 100 to everyone. So for couples that we work with, we say try with just the 5 and then go to the 20, because what that science will show eventually, and we know this because we work with growth-oriented couples, someone who recognizes that rupture, it's going to take more than 5, because most people have pain bodies that they don't even know about. That is the trust underneath the trust that they haven't worked through. We have a couple that's going through that right now, and we try to articulate to them it's not just about the initial trust. There's wounds underneath that they don't even know about yet, and it can be really scary, but it's worth the apology, it's worth recognizing, and it's worth repairing. Couples don't recognize how powerful repair and reconciliation can be.
It's everything.
It really is.
Yeah. Last piece, Sheida. Jenga tower is a good metaphor. We use it at the end of every relationship talks event. We have a picture of a Jenga tower. We say, love is not built in a day, it's built every day. And every time you throw a stinger, or you say something unkind, or you trigger a past pain body or a past experience, you have to notice it and realize you just took a Jenga block out. Oh, I just took a Jenga block out. And then you have to say, hey, I totally took this out, didn't I?
If that was a character one, you took the bottom one out, and it's crumbling.
So let's just do a quick role play. So, sweetheart, did I just take it? I think I just took a Jenga block out, did I?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I did. Yeah. I'll literally say, was that a stinger?
Yeah.
And she's like, honestly, yeah.
It was.
Okay, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant, or this is what I meant, boom, boom, boom. And in the future, can I understand why that was a stinger?
Yeah,
and then
she'll the clarification process and feedback process.
And then, okay, in the future, I'll make sure that I don't throw that stinger again.
And you'll say, what I really meant was this.
Yep.
And I'm so sorry that it impacted you in a way.
So you're not take ownership for the fact that I did actually mean it the way I said it, which is also a possibility.
Or like, I was being an idiot, I'm so sorry, I was rushing through us.
100%.
It's like,
I was hangry, I was whatever, but it's not an excuse that makes it okay. Hangry is fine. But did I take a Jenga block out? Are we good? And then how do I tie this string back together? How do I put the block back in to make sure the tower gets taller, not collapse? Because if you take those blocks out, the Jenga tower is going to collapse and you will get divorced. And what we've found, we've been coaching couples for 5 years, is a lot of people don't come to us until it's too late. Yeah. Do you know how many people have come to us after they're on the brink of divorce? Yeah. If they had come to us 2 years before that, you wouldn't even be thinking about divorce. As a matter of fact, we've had a few couples come to us too late and actually get divorced.
Yeah.
And that's been really hard for us, because if they
had come earlier.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Makes us sad.
Lovely. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
We went a little bit over, but
we had a blast.
Thank you, Sheida. Work in the world.